Alright, ladies and gents, welcome back. In today's video I'm going to be looking at something that's kind of interesting, which is to say that does RAM performance actually have an impact in VR titles? As I've recently upgraded my motherboard from the X470 chipset to the X570 chipset, and I decided to see if my 3200 MHz RAM ended up making a difference versus the 4000 MHz RAM that is currently set up in my rig right now. So the real idea here is just to see if we're going to see an FPS increase, if we're going to see any kind of a decrease, and are frame rates potentially going to become more stable using this higher quality RAM. So let's just take a look at how these games perform, and then we'll draw conclusions at the end of the video. Let's get to it.
Isolated eyes, a messy mind. Think I need to help you. I'm gonna try. Cute as hell, baby. Hotter than flames. Wanna burn together in a million ways. Now let me take the lead. Know you wanna play with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. I know I'm not gonna regret this. Wanna get reckless, put you to the test. Yeah, I know I'm not gonna regret this. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. Couldn't keep your poker face. But boy, you kept me waiting when I wanted to race. Sweet as hell, baby. You're a sugar rush. I knew you were given temptation, was craving. You love it, you hate it. Now let me take the lead. Know you wanna play with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. Lock the doors, zip it off. Kiss my neck, but you want more. Scream your name deep in the night. Work your way around my thighs, explore my hips, my diamond eyes. I scream your name, I shut it down, 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 down. I know I'm not gonna regret this. Wanna get reckless, put you to the test. Yeah, I know I'm not gonna regret this. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I want.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption, breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out. Be carefree lately, yeah. Just picking up daisies. Got one too many quarters in my pockets. Count 'em like the 4-leaf clovers in my locket. Untied laces, yeah. Just tripping on daydreams. Got dirty little lullabies playing on repeat. Might as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.
That the brothers on the rise now. Endless celebrations all in my house. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for quit it, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business so humongous, you would think that happens in it. Oh man, I'm all that, yeah, I'm all that. Looking for that whip, yeah, that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have them yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like, whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Lot of haters, tell me where they at though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap though. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Woo! Everybody wanna do the same thing. Yup, that's why we ain't on the same page. Do my own thing, and I maintain. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah. like water, so I'm going mainstream.
Not really sure, but my brain tells me I've been here before. Don't wanna draw any attention to all the crazy things that I shouldn't mention. Not really sure, but it feels like my feet are glued to the floor. Don't wanna open up my mouth, cause I'm afraid of what's gonna come out. Life is but a dream. This can't be happening. Wake up, scream. I'm in a twisted reality. Twisted. I'm not sure who's the one making the decision. visions. Wake up, scream. I'm in a twisted reality.
So now that you've seen what all of this looks like, what kind of conclusion can we draw from this? And so not too surprisingly, what I saw is exactly what most basically game engine renditions of the performance that they see is like, just like with the 2D counterparts of some of these titles, which did have 2D, such as Fallout 4 and also Skyrim. So these engines, for one reason or another, seem to be really dependent on higher RAM speeds, and as a result, you will see that Fallout 4 and also Skyrim do see an uptick in performance, where anything from an order of 10 FPS to 20 and even in some cases 30 FPS in different scenes are not uncommon once you raise RAM speeds. However, these same results could be achieved, as has been seen before, with simply a 3600 MHz RAM upgrade, meaning that for you to get the same kind of results, you don't necessarily have to get the very expensive 4000 MHz RAM sticks, which of course will set you back a fairly large amount of money. Now, in games like Boneworks, I did see a slight increase in frame rate consistency going with the higher RAM quality here and also the higher frequency of said RAM, but the results are well within margin of error, so to say that the RAM was the definitive factor here is kind of difficult, given that I've also been running a number of expansion cards in my rig at the same time, meaning that we could also be seeing that the actual expansion in the number of PCIe lanes and their speed that is afforded by the new Gen 4 interface could be playing another factor in my particular case, which may not be the same for you, meaning that if you are still on Gen 3, the move to Gen 4 may not necessarily make as much of a difference, and so the results of the RAM speed increase here could be slightly erroneous. Now, in games like Zero Caliber VR, in games like Blade and Sorcery, and also Hellsplit Arena, I did not see any really measurable increase in the speed of the frames that we're seeing, so the games largely ran at the same speeds as they did before, with seemingly no increase to the average frame rate or any kind of consistency, for example, as we did see with Boneworks as one particular example. Now, I picked these titles because most folks who have been in the VR scene for a while are playing these games pretty consistently, and also people who are just getting into VR are more likely to pick these titles up as they are on frequent top seller lists within the VR space. So it goes to show you that more than likely folks that are getting into the VR space would more than likely be picking these up. So in the end, does upgrading your RAM for VR titles make a big difference? Well, given the limited test of games that I've run through, it's not 100% conclusive whether it makes 100% difference. However, if you are somebody who's going to be spending quite a fair bit of time in games such as Fallout and in games such as Skyrim, especially in VR, but even for their 2D counterparts, the RAM speed increase is going to make a difference in the playability, especially if the rest of your system specs may not necessarily be carrying you over that line. So potentially, if you're somebody who's just struggling to hit that 50 or 60 FPS mark in these titles, the RAM upgrade may just be able to push you up just enough to make the game a livable kind of experience. And same thing if you're teetering on that 20 to 30 FPS line in these titles, again, the RAM speed increase is going to make a large enough difference for you there. Now, in my case, the results are also not 100% apples to apples, just because for one reason or another, after upgrading my motherboard, I couldn't hit the same boost clocks on my GPU. And you'll see that reflected in that I'm consistently hitting 2 GHz on the GPU core previously on my old setup, and now I'm somewhere around 1900, 1930 or so. And it could be that this is also impacting some of the final performance numbers here. So it wasn't exactly a fair comparison in that sense. However, I think that these results are still relatively conclusive, given that we're seeing some increases in titles where I would have expected them to see an uptick, and other titles where we did not see as much of an increase moving from that kind of RAM speed. So the end result is that it will depend on you and the kind of titles that you play. If it just so happens that you also need the faster RAM for either decompressing large files or moving things around, or if you're somebody that does video editing, etc., where the speeds of the RAM are going to make an impact on how quickly you can scrub through all of your video feeds, especially if they're 4K and above, this may just be the way to go for you. Now, with that said, this will conclude this short video, and I'm going to be doing another comparison video where I'll finally be showing if the actual upgrade to the 5900X CPU is going to make a difference in these titles versus the 3700X. And I think that we'll see an uptick in performance there, although I won't imagine that it will be a massive one, given that more of these titles are dependent on your GPU speed and the number of CUDA cores, for example, if you're on NVIDIA cards versus something else. But stick around for that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.